Before we begin, there's a few things that you should be aware of. If you're doing a SIMnet project that is auto-graded, always use the SIMnet project instructions and the start file in the SIMnet project area. That's what you see on the screen right here. It's really important that you get your instructions right from there. Secondly, if you're doing a project that is not auto-graded, such as pause and practice, we highly encourage that you use the instructions in the sim book rather than the printed book if you have it, because the sim book project instructions are always up to date. And then lastly, there are slight differences between Office 365 and 2019. The book and project instructions are written in Office 365, and where differences exist, they'll be noted in the project instructions or in the sim book. Okay, let's begin. Okay, step one says to download the database start file. That's exactly what you see right here. Step two says to rename this if you're told to do so by your instructor. Otherwise, you can simply leave it as is. And then step three says enable content in the database. If you see this security warning up here, simply double click, enable content, and then you'll be able to work with this database. Step four says to right click the pets without matching owner report. So that's right here. Make sure you do the report, not the query. And then we need to right click the layout view. And that gives us this view right here. That completes step four. Step five, we're going to change the report to the landscape orientation, just going to make it a little bit wider. So I hit page setup and then landscape. You can see that it makes it just a little bit wider right here. Easy enough. That completes step five. Step six says to adjust the width of the report columns. So there are a lot of little steps here, easy to make a mistake because they're not all exactly the same. So follow along. I'll do my best to do it quickly, but still do it slowly enough so you can follow along. Also, I have a printed copy of the instructions in front of me, and I literally check off or tick off each item as I complete it. It helps me get a great grade. I suggest you do the same. You don't have to do it, but I suggest you do have a printed copy. Okay, well, let's talk about 6A. It says select the text box. It says, why make a great companion right here. This is a text box. I hold down the shift key and then I select the label up there. Next, I hit F4. That'll open up the property sheet area. And what we need to do is put in some information. This pattern is going to repeat, but like I said, there's a couple nuances in a later step you'll need to be aware of, so read it carefully. Okay, so in the width property, I'm just going to delete everything out of there, or I can highlight it, and then it needs me to put in 3.2. And then I'm going to hit enter, although tab would work. That locks it into place. I don't need to put the little inches mark. When I lock it into place, it'll re-add it there. So try it once, you'll see what I mean. And then in the left property box, I need to delete everything out. Type in 7, hit enter, that'll lock it into place. That's 6E. Next, we need to select the color column. And be very careful here, because if I just select down here, it's going to select everything. I need to literally select where it says tan right there. And then I need to hold down the shift key and then hit the label. It's an important distinction. Checking my instructions. We need to do 1.5 and 5.3, so width and then left. 1.5. And then left, 5.3. That looks pretty good. Next, we need to select the width property for the gender column and label. So this is the gender. I put it right over where he says see the M. Might not show up that well in video. And then I hold down the shift key, get the label, 0.6 and 4.6. Good. We're going to do the age column next. The column and then the label, same thing. 0.5 and 4. The breed column. Very similar process here. 1.3, 2.5. No, we need on this one, this is 6L, be very careful here. We need to select the breed column only. Just the text box, and we need to deselect the label. So if, for instance, we had both of them selected, if I went back and then just clicked in where it says Terrier Cross Chihuahua, that just gets what we need, the column itself, not the label. Okay? And then we need to put in 0.5 for the height. It's down a little bit further, 0.5, lock it into place. Okay, for the type, we need the dog, and then the type, so the label, and then the column. 0.7 and 1.7. And finally, the pet name and the label. Pet name, shift, grab the label. It's looking at .8 and 0.8. Good. And I'm just doing a quick double check here of the figure on the instructions. That's looking pretty good. The last thing I need to do, this is 6P. I need to save the report. I'm going to click the little save button in the upper left-hand portion of the screen, and that'll complete step 6. On step 7, we need to edit the header and footer sections. So we need to click the text box containing date, and we need to enter 7.4 in the left property. I lock that into place. Then I'm going to click the title label right there. And I'm going to double click in there, and then I'm going to type over and put pets available for adoption. Make sure I spelled it right. I'm going to click anywhere outside of that to lock it into place. Then I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom and use the slider right here. And I'm going to select page number. Now be very careful. If you click just a little bit to the right or the left, you're going to select everything here, and that's not going to be what you want. So click right on the page number itself, and you'll see this information over here in the property sheet area, and it wants us to put in 9 for the left column. Press enter to lock it into place, and then F4 to close it out. You could have clicked the X right up here, but I'm doing what it says, press F4, and that completes step 7. Let's move on to step 8. We're going to add grouping and sorting to the report. So we need to be on the design tab right here. There's 4 different tabs should be available to you. Click on the design tab, and over here is group and sort. And what you should see, it'll say towards the bottom, at the bottom, it'll say add a group. Then it wants me to select type. And then the more button right there, you'll see it down there. It might be a little bit hard on the video, but I click the more and it opens up lots of different choices. Somewhere over here towards the right, I see there's a drop-down arrow next to do not keep grouped together on one page. There's a drop-down arrow, gives me 3 different choices. I'm going to select keep header and first record together on one page. For me, it's the last choice right there. That looks good. And then back over here, it says add sort. I click ID. And then be very, very, very careful here. It wants us to close this area down here. Do not click the X that's next to this yellowish bar. That'll undo everything that you just did. Click the X, it's just a little bit further up and to the right there, and that'll close that box. And then we're going to simply scroll. I'm going to use this slider up here, go all the way to the top. Reading the instructions, you should see Martin up there with cat type there. Everyone likes cats. Okay, I think we're good. That completes step 8. Step 9, we need to click any cell in the gender column. Just going to click right there, that's fine. And then we need to click conditional formatting. We need to be up here on the Format tab, and you'll see conditional formatting. That'll open up. Simply click New Rule. And we need to make sure that it defaults on check values in the current record or use an expression. It probably is, but select it if it isn't. And then down here, it wants us to choose equal to, so it's this box right here. You'll probably see it says between, but there's a little down arrow, and it wants me to choose equal to. Then in the values box, I'm going to type in M. Then I'm going to select bold, dark blue for the font color. Should be right here. Hover over it, make sure you get dark blue and not any of the variations. Click OK. Click Apply. Then OK again. And then lastly, save the report. Up here in the upper left-hand portion of the screen, save. Control-S could also do it as well. And that completes step 9. Step 10 says to add totals to the report to count how many of each type of the pet is available. So we need to click or select any text box in the pet ID. Now be very, very careful. It's easy to click on the pet name. We don't want to do that. We want to type on one of the numbers right here. I'll just click over 6. That works just fine. Then we need to be up here on the Design tab. That's important. Then you're going to see Totals. If I click it, you should get several choices. One of the choices is Count Records. You can see how it changes down below a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to save the report. So I'm just going to click the Save button in the upper left-hand portion of the screen. That completes step 10. Step 11 says preview the report. So let's get on the View button right here. We need to be on the Design tab. And then over to the left, it'll probably be the leftmost one for you. There's the View button, and there's a little down arrow, and I'm going to click on Print Preview. Should look similar to the figure that you see in your instructions. Hopefully you have them. And then I want to select one page. So I want to see how it looks on one page. And it also says use the navigation arrows. They're way down here. You can navigate. It's down here. You can navigate to the different pages. Check them out. Looks good to me. We're going to close this out. Click Close, Print Preview. And that's great. And then that completes step 11. And then step 12, it says close the report. So pretty easy to do. You'll see an X next to the report button over here. In older versions, it used to show up way over here to the right, but in the newer versions, it's over here. So I'm going to click that. That's going to close out the report. And that completes step 12. Okay, we're on the home stretch here. Step 13. It says create a split form and adjust control positions on the form. So we need to click on the owner's table. It's right here. And just one time I click it. Then we need to choose up here on the Create tab. Should see in the Forms grouping area, More Forms. And if you click on it, there's a little drop down. One of the choices is Split Form. You'll see what happens right here. Lots of different choices in 13B. In 13C, it says click the Form Layout Tools, Arrange tab. Then we need to select the Layout button, just checking the instructions and make sure we have everything right. Select Layout right there. And then we need to click on the Control Padding option. Click on it, and there's several choices. I'm going to choose medium. And then I'm just going to click somewhere here to deselect everything. And there's a figure in your instructions. It should look very similar to what you see in the instructions. We're going to save the form. And we're going to accept the suggested form name. I'm just going to click OK. Not going to change anything there. That's great. Next, we need to switch to form view by clicking the form view icon in the status bar, which is down here in the lower right. Might be pretty small in the video, but one of the choices if you hover over them says form view, so I'm just going to select that. That's going to complete step 13I, and then J. It says use the navigation buttons to move around the records. Down here in the lower left, we can move around the records right there. It says close the form. I'm going to click the X button. And then that completes step 13. Step 14 says to close the database. Step 15 says to upload and save your project file. And then step 16 says submit the project for grading in SIMnet. Best of luck, everybody.